think writers are like magpies. We alight on shiny things and think, gosh, that sounds interesting and fascinating, and we store it away in our memories. And I remember encountering photographs of Sedlec in a magazine, this town in Bohemia that had a church constructed of bones. And I thought perhaps there might be the substance of a book there. And in the end, I hope I was right, because The Black Angel is the book that resulted.
I leafed through the photographs. The first depicted a church of some kind, with 3 spires set in a triangular pattern. It was surrounded by bare trees and an old stone wall, separated at regular intervals by columns topped with carved skulls. "What is this place?" I said. "This is Sedlec, where the Black Angel came into being."
Our medieval ancestors would not have recognized a place like this as a cemetery. They had no belief that they were going to be left to rest undisturbed when they died. Instead, this place would have consisted of nothing more than a series of large pits, some of them capable of holding up to 1,500 people. Now, the first thing one would have noticed was the sheer stink. It must have smelt to high heaven. The second thing one would have noticed was bones. Human remains would be stacked anywhere where there was space to put them. Against the cemetery walls, on the steps, in corners, in alcoves, everywhere there were bones. So that presented the monks here with a real problem: what to do with the human remains. At Sedlec, they came up with a particularly innovative solution to that problem. In 1511, a half-blind monk was assigned the task of disposing of the bones that had been assembled over a period of centuries. His solution was to create 6 of these freestanding bone pyramids. The next major stage occurs at the beginning of the 18th century, when an architect called Santini Eco is brought in. He created these wonderful candelabra. You can see they're a pyramid shape. They're very deliberately designed to echo the pyramids, the bone pyramids that had been created earlier. In the 19th century, it was bought by the wealthy Schwarzenberg family. They found a woodcarver named František Rindt. It turned out that Rindt had quite extraordinary imagination, and he was given free rein to indulge it in this ossuary. The first thing that he did was to completely redecorate the ossuary. So when we look up, we see these wonderful garlands of skulls, these hanging bones. Look here, there is a skull with a raven picking the eye from the skull. There are vertebrae there, what looks like a pelvic bone, and 2 small arm bones as well. It's a beautiful little detail, and it says a great deal about the man's imagination. But Rindt's crowning achievement is this wonderful chandelier. Instead of chains, he has these hanging arm bones. There are vertebrae. There are sections of the pelvis, which provide a kind of seat for these skulls here. This is reputed to contain a sample of every bone in the human body.
He turned his attention to the skulls. I noticed that he handled them delicately, almost respectfully, as though fearing to commit some desecration on the remains. "You've seen something like this before?" Neto lifted the skull and gazed into the empty sockets of its eyes. "Oh yes," he said softly. "Don't you think there's something beautiful about it, Mr. Parker? Don't you find edifying the idea that someone would take bones and use them to create a piece of art?" "No," I said. "I've met people before who tried to make art out of bone and blood. I didn't much care for them.
On one level, it seems macabre that human remains could be reduced to this. It seems like an incredibly, almost sacrilegious thing to do with human remains. But on some deeper level, there's an appreciation of the beauty of the human form. This was put together so lovingly and with such respect for the remains that were used. And they are a tribute both to humans and to God. There is a beauty here